GeekWave. This is the low budget show. It's the show solo. It has no budget. We're back in the mutant mayhem era of our lives, the Cowabunga summer. We're reaching the end. We got a couple more videos to talk about. I don't know if I'll do another GeekWave to the Turtles. We've done 6 in a row now, including this one. Maybe we'll come back with a last one. I have a couple ideas for what I would have done for a GeekWave for a sequel, but now I'm thinking maybe I'll just do like an independent video talking about some other Turtle stuff, and that's how we'll wrap up this summer. But it was fun. Fun talking Turtles, and we're going to end on a big one. Do you like people just making lists? You know, I'm on the fandom wiki for Ninja Turtles. We're going to go through every single other mutant in the Ninja Turtles lore. A couple will come up twice because there's certain and specific characters that do manage to appear in more than one place throughout the Turtles' history. I think we'll exclude toys because there's a lot of just like characters that are toys, you know? Like Half Court doesn't make a lot of appearances, you know? So we don't really need to talk about him. And of course, I always like to do some news pieces, but I don't really got any news to say. With everything going bad in Hollywood right now, I don't really have like the desire to want to talk about anything like that capacity. So we're not going to talk about it. Just know things will get better, hopefully. But the end of this year and the beginning of next year, and I'd say all of 2024, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, what actually releases. I don't know how much we have. I feel like a lot of stuff is being pushed till next year just to like take up time. It's going to be like a rough couple of months, you know. It's actually rough now. I mean, after the last Voyage of the Demeter, do we really have anything big? I guess Blue Beetle and Gran Turismo based on a true story, but not really. So we don't have any news to talk about. I guess we can briefly just mention, we talked about a couple things the last couple weeks is about people who are passing. Legendary director William Friedkin passed away a couple days ago. And he's just the bomb. Like, he's one of those cool guys who just didn't give a shit. Just made expensive and crazy and interesting films. And just, went for it. Just like the things he did in French Connection, you most certainly couldn't get away with today. Not just in like the subject matter. Just like, we're just going to do it. It doesn't matter if there's any laws or anything. We're just going to do it. And he just did it. And it's crazy, The Exorcist, probably one of the most entertaining and intense movies ever made. And he's such a well-crafted individual. He just makes something so brilliant to look at. You appreciate it so much. Like, he's such a talented director. And legacy upon legacy that will be missed. It's really impressive. So, R.I.P. a king. You made some intense movies, and they're pretty good. They've all been good. Actually, they've all been pretty cool. Mad props to that. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We are here to talk about the other mutants of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles universe. Because there's a lot. They started off as the Frank Miller parody. So they fought ninjas, and then they did robots, and then they did aliens. Those were like the 3 big things for them at the beginning. The Shredder and the Foot Clan. Krang and the Triceraton, the Fugitoid and that stuff, and then Metalhead, that kind of shit. That's like the crux. But then it's like, they are mutants technically. Maybe they should fight other mutants, That could be fun. It'd be very fun. And, mutagen, TCRI, however you want it to have the mutagen come here. Is it from Dimension X? How do you make the mutagen? It doesn't matter. Whatever interpretation you want. There are millions of mutants. And I know what you're thinking. Are they all mutated from animals? No. Some of them are mutated from garbage, which is insane. So this is just a list of guys from stuff. This is all on the Turtlepedia fandom wiki, which is updated constantly and full of other stuff. So, yeah, let's get into it. Starting off with the Mirage comics. They didn't do many. Just because, the original run was, again, the Frank Miller parody. So it was about here's the Shredder being this guy. And then we did the Triceraton and that kind of stuff. And then that book got weird. So there was like the Shredder clones, which were like the elite mutant. Like there's one of claws, and there's ones that's small, and there's like a big one. And I think that's like in almost every iteration too, where the Shredder has like a mutated version of himself. I guess in some essence too, like the Super Shredder could be considered like a mutant. Like we mutated the Shredder, and he just becomes like a big Shredder, and that's like insane. I love the idea that if the Shredder takes mutagen, he just like gets like buff, and the armor gets more shredded. Like why does that work? Why would the like clothing get mutated too? It doesn't matter. It's awesome. Not a lot of them came from the Mirage stuff, right? The Turtles, and you have Splinter, and Leatherhead, I think, was like the first big one to be introduced. And arguably, I'd say next to the Turtles and Splinter, the most known mutant. Well, I guess Bebop and Rocksteady are probably bigger too. But I just think, like, in terms of, like, the original character, I do think Leatherhead is popular. I don't think there's a bad iteration of Leatherhead in media. You want to go, like, the Australian crocodile with the hat and the gun. It works. That's what we did in the most recent one. You want to go the more, like, the scientific professor. You want to go straight up crazy guy. It works. They all work. Leatherhead kind of freaking rocks. You just love seeing them. I love that. Now, here's a fun one. This is kind of like an interesting character to bring up called Bloodsucker, a mutant leech. If you don't follow Chris on Comic Tropes, he did a video recently talking about Bloodsucker. This is like a leech that sucked the blood of Raphael and then got mutated drinking the blood. And it's kind of like an obscure character that the rights remain to the creator, and he's not selling them off to IDW to publish those books again. So it's cool. Those, I think, are the only ones of note there. You got a couple of just like smaller scale characters that don't really matter, just random ones that appear. You got, who do you got here? Who cares? Doesn't matter. And then you got like the other like random ones, like the Terror Bears that show up, if you think that's interesting. Back in the day, they just said, what if anything could happen? They do try to do like, there's a group of four of them and they're here together. So you have like the Terror Bears and they're whatever. And none of them really stay. None of them are that interesting. This is like from like, the other era of like the Ninja Turtles, kind of like before it gets popular again. So you got guys like, who we got here? Dwayne Cowbird, who's a mutated crow. Jasper Deep Swamp, who's a mutated, yeah, you get it. Just characters that would be a toy if you bought them. You got the Rat Pack, which is mutated creatures, I guess. They're called the Rat Pack, but there's only one rat. There's like a lizard and a guinea pig. Lounge Lizard, Brain Drain, Space Case, White Rabbit, and Lab Rat. Very cool. Who cares? That doesn't matter. There's too many. And then this era, I don't think there's any like memorable ones from this era, where this is just like, we'll make characters and see what happens. A lot of them don't really come back, which I get. Why would they? So let's move away from that and get to like the actual stuff that people know, which is the 1987 TV series. Because that brings us to, I guess, more than Leatherhead, maybe? I don't know. Leatherhead's just the coolest. Bebop and Rocksteady, the Warthog and the Rhinoceros, like, it works. You got two names based off things that happen in music, and you just got, like, iconic designs, great voices, the Toidles, they just work in every iteration. We'll be talking about it very soon. We do TMNT Out of the Shadows, but even in live action, we have yet to mess up Bebop and Rocksteady. Like, they're just two guys that are goofs and silly, and no matter the iteration, they just work. They have never been bad, and that's really impressive. And they kind of got a crew of them, too. You got, like, Scrag and Grunt and Dopey and Dumbo. You remember, Scrag, I think, is the most iconic of that, too, like the mutated bat guy. He's pretty fun. But it just works. Like, we got cool characters in here. And then these are kind of like the more iconic ones that we have referencing all the time. Baxter Stockman, of course. In some iterations, he's just like a mad genius who builds mousers, which is like, again, a fun thing, going back to like the robots and like a guy built them. In some iterations, he's just a fly guy, which I love. That design for Stockman is just so cool. I do prefer like the guy that's not a fly and he's just kind of like a dude that's like a freak, which is what Mutant Mayhem did. They made his son into a fly. That's kind of cool. But Stockman as a fly, like a shriveled up nerd, especially in like the 80s, he was like a shriveled up nerdy guy. I feel like later iterations when they try to do the fly, they make it a little more like grotesque, not really Cronenbergy, just they try something different with it. In Mondo Gecko, come on. You talk about like the most iconic character, like straight up a character from the 80s and 90s where you're like, this guy is rad. He skateboards. He's got a cool vibe. He's just a cool dude that people like. And I can't disagree with that. He rocks a lot. It's great. Muckman and Joe Eyeball, I was talking about this earlier. You got guys that are just garbage that like garbage. That's great. Garbage. Just Muckman and Joe Eyeball. Just guys that come from garbage. Disgusting little freaks. Just a mucky little toxic crusader looking guy. It's awesome. Mad respect to those guys. Mutagen Band. Just a thing in a jar with legs. That's so sick. Like it's just a bunch of crap in a jar. And it's a guy. And it's cool. And you love him. Such a weird characters, but you respect it so much. Like the punk frogs. Again, sometimes we'll try to do like, there's 4 of them, and we'll name them all after things that happen. Like Napoleon, Genghis, Rasputin, and Attila. That's awesome. Like, they're just casual, cool guys that do their own thing and vibe. The punk frogs are sick. Like, I love them. Just a great, like, parody of the turtles within, like, the universe. They're just like, we're evil, but are we, though? Not really. We're from Florida, so what are we really doing? They're great. They're silly. They dress like I dress, and I appreciate that so much. Like, that's how I dress. I will forever look like them. That's what I look like. Scumbug, the hot cockroach that Splinter kisses in the latest movie. She's fun. He's cool. Cool. Slash is another. I think, like, if you were to. That's actually a really good question. Is Slash more iconic than Toka? I wonder. They're the next 2 most iconic, like, turtle mutants aside from our guys, which is kind of interesting. And I guess like we could talk about Toka and Razar. They're the first big mutants outside of the turtles to be in live action. You know, a wolf and a snapping turtle, big, bulky, and crazy. I talked about them a lot before. They kind of rock. They're kind of cool. Appreciate them. Really fun characters. Mona Lisa, one of my favorite characters. What if there was just a cute salamander lady that may or may not be like a love interest to whoever? You know, what if that just happened? What if? What if? What if? It's kind of cool. And then, of course, you got Ground Chuck and Dirtbag, a cow and a mole. I love these guys. Just fun. I recently was playing Shredder's Revenge. I haven't played it before. Utterly fantastic. A fun kind of game. That's my style. That's like my style of game. When they showed up, I was like, okay, yeah, now we're doing something fun. I appreciate that immensely. I freaking love Dirtbag. He is just a mole with a hard hat, and he has a shovel. That is the coolest thing in the world, if you ask me. That is just sick. I love them. And I recently bought the action figure, too, so I love that. I love that. Like, again, this era's good. This era's like, we need to sell toys, so we're going to sell toys. And it's cool. You respect it. And then you just got, like, couple other guys. No one of real note, you know. Let's talk about some other ones that appeared in the Archie comics. I'm just going down the list that the fandom gives me. Who do we got here? We got Bebop and Rocksteady again. We got Leatherhead again. We got Ray Fillet or Man Ray, depending on who's doing what with it. Awesome. Like, that is one of those cool designs where it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Do a Manta Ray. That'd be sick. And every iteration looks great. Like a big, bulky, wrestler-looking guy. It's awesome. It's cool. And you have Worm. Worm is just like a worm guy, and that's weird. But it's a worm. I don't know. Worm. The worm guy. Do you like the worm guy? I don't know. I haven't read all of the Archie stuff because, you know, I'm a young man. I only got so much time in my life to care about these types of things. But I appreciate them just being like, no, this is silly. We're going to do the TV show. Why try? Because you got Chameleon, you got Verminator X, you got Armagon. This is one I remember from like the classic arcade. They had like a version of Armagon. And it's a shark. It's cool. I love a good shark. Like I like when they do animals that you're like, that is insane. Why would you do that animal? Which brings us to a name I love seeing on this list because I know nothing about this guy, but I know that name. Manmoth. And then that's a woolly mammoth. But it's a man woolly mammoth. That's awesome. NECA, you gotta get to him next. That is sick. Oily bird. Is that like ace duck? I don't know that name. Nope, that's an oily bird. Yeah, I mean, sure, they can't all be winners. Why would they, It also seems like every iteration tries to do a leatherhead, which I think is kind of cool because we look at, some of these other ones, they do a leatherhead. That's fun. Let's talk about the next mutation. Not for long, though. We don't really need to. It's a bad show, but it introduced us to the fifth turtle for a little bunch. The famous painter, Venus de Milo? Yeah. It's cool. Like, now she's a girl turtle, and I think it's very interesting. There is a place for her. I do think there is a place for her. It's in the 90s, for sure, but I can never say I hate Venus de Milo. Just because eventually you're going to try it, right? So fine trying it. It's an interesting idea. It didn't work. I appreciate the effort put into that. Not that it's great, but they tried it. And I do like that a little bit. So that's kind of cool. The 2003 era, they didn't do a whole lot new stuff. We did like the Shredder clones again, which was kind of cool. We did like the one... Remember like the episode where we're like underground and we find like mutated people called Stonebiter, Razor Fist, and Quarry? Yeah. We did that. That's kind of cool. We didn't do much else. Which, why should we? Now let's dive over to IDW because that has been going on for a long time. And they've done almost every character that you could think of. So we're going to go through this list. And I guess we'll talk about the ones that have kind of like stayed around the most. I think they introduced a couple of characters that are very prominent still. First off, I guess we should talk about Jenica, who is, I guess, the modern update for a Venus de Milo type, where it's like, what if there was a girl one? This one, she's a little different. She was like a ninja, and she like was a human, and then she got mutated into, that. When did that happen? That seems like it was recent, but it also could be years ago now. Time flies when you're having fun with turtle characters, but no, she's more like, it's not like a girl turtle with boobs. You remember that? That was weird. She's like, I'm unhappy. I was caught in the crossfire or something. A character in here did. And now I'm going to do this. Cool. A couple of like the ones that we were introduced to that are like the bigger names of this era. I would say we have Old Hob, who was like appeared. I think Old Hob appeared in the first issue of the IDW run. And he's just like a grimy street cat. He's like a stray cat that's just like a tough. And I'm like, yeah, if we're going to do a bunch of mutant shit, why not have one of them be like a street level mutant freak that goes around and does stuff? I appreciate that so much. Alopex, which is like a mutated Arctic fox. I remember them pretty well. I'm not caught up on everything going on in this era of TMNT just because they were doing so much. But I do know that one. She's cool. And Koya, I know Koya, the Brown Falcon. I know them pretty well. This version of Slash was pretty cool too. And Bludgeon, which was, it's just kind of King Shark. You're familiar with that. You know what that is. You get it. And I guess, is this where Pigeon Pete starts too? Well, no, because he appears later in like some of the other cartoons. But, Pigeon Pete's important. What if a pigeon was named Pete? Imagine a world where that happened. Could you imagine where that happened? But because this show or because this comic book, I should say, has been going on for so long, they have done everything. They have done everything. I guess we could talk about like Dreadmon and Jawcall too, which are characters that appear in the Archie books I did talk about earlier. But yeah, they're there too. They're fun. They're cool. They're good. You know, there's just so many, and that's the thing where it's like we do like bring it back up every now and then. Wingnut and Screwloose, of course, two other characters that happen. I've never been the biggest fan of either of those characters, but you get it. You know what a wingnut is. You saw the new movie. It's pretty fun. She's pretty cool. What can I say? More worm guy. Who cares? Worm guy sucks. So many. Oh my goodness. Let's just run through this list really quick. Krissa, Mutant Python, Ravenwood, Mutant Human, Worm. We did Zodi. Mutant town inhabitants after the bomb. You have Amy, who's a mutant shark. Athena, who's a mutant armadillo. Sheena, who's a mutant pig. Saban, who's a mutant pig. Wow, 2 mutant pigs. And Wenceslus, who's a mutant rabbit. Bandit, you have Barry and Billy, who are beavers. You have Bee, who's a mouse. You have Bullchemist. His name's Bullchemist? Okay. Chloe. These are just people because, okay, there was like the City of War event. Is that what this was? Is that what this is referring to? I can't remember because I haven't read all the IDW stuff. I don't think City at War was so long ago, so I don't think it is. I think this was like Mutant Town happened recently in this continuity. Yeah, it's like issue 101 where there's like, we made so many mutants. What if they just had like a place to live now in like New York? Yeah, oh, maybe it was the City at War. Oh my goodness. There's just so much stuff. We made a lot of them. There was a frick ton of these guys that showed up. Let's get out of this era because we got really nothing else to say here. The 2012 series, how about that era? That's pretty fun. You have, what do we got here? We have Spider Bites. Remember Spider Bites? That was cool. That was kind of fun. Dog Pound, who would later become Razar because, why? I don't know. We also had Fish Face. Cool character, if you ask me. I always liked that one. Robotic legs, but he's a big fish with a knife. Cockroach Terminator, which could be pretty much anybody, really. Fall into a lot of categories there. That's okay. I guess Karai in this era, too, did become like a snake lady, which was like, that's an idea that I don't know if I love. I guess like the biggest addition this one did was like Tiger Claw, who was this like an assassin for Shredder, and he was pretty cool. I remember liking that guy. He was pretty sick because he was crazy and intense, and that's what you want from a clone of, or just like a mutant like that. Do something like that. They did the punk frogs in here too. Oh my goodness, they've done everything. Do you remember Ice Cream Kitty? What if a cat was ice cream? That's pretty cool. They also did the Shredder mutants here. They did this era of the Ninja Turtles, like the 2012 cartoon. I don't think it gets like enough credit for just how crazy and intense they went. Like they did some bizarre episodes and had some insane callbacks to characters. Like they went for it in some weird ways and in some normal ways, but most of the ways were weird. Like Anthrax. Remember Anthrax, the mutant ant? Yeah. He was in the cartoon show, right? Like the original one, and he was like a weird little cartoon guy. I don't know. Crazy. And then I guess Rise of the TMNT made some new guys too, I think. Yeah, because they made that Hypnopotamus, which is like, what if there was a hippo genie? They created Meat Sweats, which was like, what if a pig was like sweaty, I guess. Did not watch all of this show, so I don't know. I don't know what any of this is, but cool. I think those two are like the ones of note from the era. We're not going to talk about that, and there wasn't really. Well, I guess you could, if you want to look at like the last Ronin era, you did have the new generation of turtles. What are the names of those turtles? I can't remember. Let's see if we can look it up here. Because remember, at like the end, they found Casey at the end of the last Ronin wanted to like raise a new generation of turtle, and she was like, well, let me try that. And they've been like teasing for a while that they're gonna like introduce them in like a grown-up way. Have they introduced them in a grown-up way yet? They've been talking about it. Like they've been showing off like the concept art. There's like a big one. There's like a girl one. So their names are Yi, Odin, Moja, and Uno. Which, if I'm not mistaken, those all mean like one in different languages. Like Uno is Spanish, Odin's Russian, Yi is Chinese, and Moja is Swahili. Right? Yeah. I'm looking at it like okay. We see them as like young turtles in that's the not the Lost Years, the sequel. The sequel one? Are we doing it again? I don't remember what it's called. I got thoughts on the last show and we'll get back to here in a bit, but this is kind of cool. Like this is a fun idea to have because we're like allowing like a new attempt at doing turtle stuff, and that's pretty exciting and I appreciate that. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Anything could happen, but it might fall apart. Whatever. I appreciate that. And the toys, do we want to go through any of the toys? You got like Ace Duck, he's a popular guy. He's appeared elsewhere. Half Court, your dad's favorite over here. Appreciate him. Monty Moose, I guess I should bring him up because he's kind of like a Canadian, I guess. He's like a Canadian one, just because he's in like a Mountie uniform and he's a moose. And in Canada, moose popular. Yeah. Yeah, you get it. Here are the accessories to Monty Moose, though. Pack and Pistol, Skin and Saber, Bob the Beaver, Handy Handcuffs and Belly Belt. What the fuck does that mean? I don't know. Crazy. And that's where we're going to end, I guess. Yeah, pretty short one, but whatever. You get Scratch, another popular character from the toy line. What if there was, a cat that got arrested? That's fun. Oh man, that toy line went on for so long and went every weird direction. And some of those characters are cool and some of them are not that cool, but we made a shit ton of mutants. And I think the only ones that matter are the ones that appeared in the new movie, like Mutant Mayhem. We have Superfly, who's like a new one again, but it's just like, what if Baxter Stockman was like Ice Cube? And he's cool. I like Superfly a lot. You got Wingnut in there, you got Leatherhead in there, you got Genghis Frog, you got Bebop and Rocksteady, and Ray Fillet is also in there. Mondo is on the team. Scumbug, is that all of them? I can't remember. Those are the ones I think are going to be around, but I would not be surprised. Again, like some of these ones we'll never see again. But I would not be surprised if some of like the characters from like the toy line or the older comic books appear. Definitely the ones from the 80s cartoon will be back in the sequel and stuff. I don't know, it's kind of exciting. It's cool. I like these characters. Again, of course, the best one is Leatherhead because it's like the only one that matters. But don't underestimate the power of Dirtbag. Just a dirty mole who likes to dig. What I love about that, too, is that he has a shovel for digging, but he's a mole, so he doesn't really need the shovel. And Mona Lisa, what if there was a hot lizard? Imagine such a world where there was a hot lizard. Who would stop you from experiencing that? Not me. Certainly not me. If there was a hot lizard, I'd tell you about it. And I'm telling you now. So, that's it. Again, we don't have anything to really talk about, so we're not going to talk about it. You get it. It's fine. Everything is fine. The world is okay. Nothing's broken. Nothing's ruined. We're all good. That's it. That's it. We're done. See you guys next week when we might not be talking turtles, but hey, what's your favorite mutant? Which one's your favorite? Do you like Mona Lisa? I'm just looking at pictures of her now, and if you just go to Google and type in Mona Lisa, you are going to find photos of Mona Lisa. I'll tell you that for free. So, thank you all for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.